I sold everything 2 months ago and moved to Croatia with my mom and our two dogs. And I'm about to give you the brutal truth of what it's actually like to live here. My name's Amanda. I built a six-figure business using human design, AI, and communities. I was in Alex Hormozy's private mastermind last year, and now I'm literally living my dream in Split, Croatia. But here's what nobody tells you about moving to Europe as an American entrepreneur. It isn't all Instagram worthy sunsets and cheap wine. There are real challenges, bureaucracy, and cultural adjustments that could make or break your international business dreams. So I'm just gonna give you my unfiltered take on the pros and cons of living here, how I'm able to afford this lifestyle, and why I believe that your human design is actually so important when you're choosing where to live. So let me break this down for you. The first huge pro is safety. As a woman walking around, you feel so safe walking around at night. You could be walking home in the middle of the night and you're not going to get weird looks or aggressive, behavior. And it's been really refreshing. Even though we moved from North Carolina, which is pretty safe, comparatively. If I was going home from a dinner party there, my friends would all be like, make sure you text me when you get home because you just never know. And I met this woman here who came from Buenos Aires, and she said the same thing. Like, she had that same experience. And now when her friends are leaving at night, you just know that they're going to get there safely. And the men, I was talking to a guy who is part Croatian American. I was like, why is it so safe here? And he was talking about how it's like this mix of values, the culture, being a Balkan country. People are, I don't know if afraid to step out of line, but they're more family oriented and respectful about, and I just feel like that's a really underrated part about living here. If you're a woman from America or a country that's not as safe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Next is the natural beauty. They really preserve the natural beauty. We've got Kirka, Plitvice, the mountains, the Adriatic Sea. They've put a lot of effort into preserving that, and I think it's beautiful. And now here in Split, you've got Marjan Forest, which is literally 10 minutes from our house. Of course, they had this crazy hailstorm here. I had never even seen it rain here before. And now half of the place is the Marjan Forest is closed while they're making sure there's no trees falling down. Next is you're in the center of Europe, really. So it's really easy to travel by car to some of the neighboring countries or by plane. I'm going to Amsterdam for a in real life meetup with Skool next month. And it's just so easy to get around, which that's just, I think, part of living in Europe in general. But I love that about here. The cost of living here, if you are a digital nomad and you have a foreign income, is pretty great. We found a beautiful, or kind of found us, penthouse apartment in Split. It wasn't even listed yet. It was kind of crazy. And we're paying about the same amount for this place as we were back home in North Carolina, but it's twice the size, fully furnished, beautiful, in the center of Split, which is a little bit more touristy, but it's walking distance to everything, and it's gorgeous. So we really lucked out on this place. So if you have this foreign salary, it makes it really, really easy. I'll get to the other side of the cost of living. Next is the people and the culture. I feel like the people here are incredibly open-hearted. Our first day here, we stayed in a booking or an Airbnb situation for the first month and in Sukashan, and they had they have a garden with all these fresh vegetables and fresh cherry trees. And on our very first day, she brings us this huge bowl of cherries, a bunch of vegetables from their garden, and I had never seen a real cherry tree in real life and picked one. And so she said, take as many as you want. It's not a sense of these are my cherries and you can only have this allotted amount. Nice. It's also super easy, or has been easy for me, to make friends as an expat, because I feel like people who are expats and living in other countries, you already have that thing in common. So, and it's easier to connect with people in that sense. And then also people who travel are generally more educated, cultured, open-minded. And so that part has been super fucking cool. Another example is people just don't care. They're not going to bother you. I was talking to this guy. He said when he was living in Switzerland with his wife, they had very strict rules about when you could take the trash out, how long in advance of the pickup time that you could put it out. And if you didn't, they were literally watching, like people would, your neighbors are watching you put this trash out and they will report you in 2 seconds. That would never happen here. Next is the pace of life. It is definitely a slower pace of life. Polako means slowly, or pomelo, or fiaca, which is this blissful state of doing nothing. And I love that because coming from America, I felt this, and this is part of my astrocartography too, so I can't say that everyone had this experience, but even living in North Carolina, which is slower than, let's say, New York or LA, I felt this pressure all the time that I needed to work. And if you're not working and hustling 24/7, then you're not doing enough. And that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. And I would just stay at home and work on my business all day. I wouldn't go anywhere. I did do like some tennis lessons and I met some friends that way in the States. But here it's more like work to live, not live to work. And it's really refreshing coming here from America. And I think that it's like a really good balance if you do have that entrepreneurial mindset and a bit of that hustle, go-getiveness. It can make you really successful here because it really, you're not meant to just work your whole life behind a computer screen. That's not, like, life is meant to be lived. And so that's made it really nice for me here. The next is like kind of bringing to the same thing as some of the business advantages. If you're a foreigner, there is a way to get a residency by starting a business here, but it's 30,000 euro investment, and then you have to employ 3 Croatians and pay them the minimum wage. And however, you would save a lot on the taxes side by doing so because it's more difficult to have a business here. There's less competition because it's a little bit, I wouldn't say behind, they're coming into the online space. There's less competition here in that sense. So if you're able to swing it and get the business started here, I feel like it would be easier to grow because it's not as saturated. And your foreign salary also, it just goes further here. Next, some of the cons. So I would say some of the cultural challenges are when I post about like human design or if I talk to people, I wouldn't really bring it up to a lot of people outside, but I've definitely heard some people on my TikTok say human design is witchcraft, to like take that back to America. We don't want that here. And it's a very Christian conservative country. And coming from America, which is a bit more progressive and open-minded, is interesting. But what's funny is you can always find your people wherever you go. I've met a number of people here who are into human design and spirituality, and it's just like we find each other. You know what I mean? So it's just an interesting mindset shift. Next is some of the food and lifestyle limitations. So the food scene here gets pretty repetitive. There must be, 30 focaccia stands to get sandwiches, and there's 2 Thai places. One, there's a Ukrainian place that we haven't been to yet, which I hear is really good, called Marinade. But most restaurants have pretty much the same menu in terms of food, drinks. Even the grocery stores sell a lot of the same things. We're used to being able to get like low carb, and we were trying to find vegan ice cream everywhere. And there was like one brand of vanilla in the grocery store, but only like very few stores had it. And just to talk about the cost of living differences, of course, every country is going to have its pros and cons. Like no place is perfect. If you are a Croatian here on a Croatian salary, salaries they tend to be lower than other countries maybe in Western Europe. And while a lot of things are cheaper here compared to America, the prices have risen like 2 or 3x just in the past 2-3 years. So it's really hard for them to support themselves on the salary. And what's happening is a lot of the lower paying, more menial jobs they're bringing foreigners in to do those. And so it's not as easy for Croatians to find work that values them, that's interesting, that they enjoy, that pays well. And so a lot of them are leaving the country for that reason, which is why having a foreign or online income is such an advantage. Next is there's some seasonal and practical issues. First of all, it seems like everybody smokes, even inside. And a lot when people like go out to drink, they're all smoking, and that's fine, but that's just interesting. And the summer in Split it's crazy. There's so many tourists. They all come off of the cruise boats on a daily basis and infiltrate the city center. They're everywhere, and everything is so expensive downtown. Like, you cannot find a drink for less than 12 euros, and it's pretty much the same wherever you go. I know a lot of the locals don't even come to the center over the summer, and I can understand why. We went to this Mexican restaurant. Like I said, we paid 16 euros for 3 tacos that were okay, and then 12 euros for this half full spicy margarita. It was just like margarita mix and pickled jalapeno. And the prices are so high because they only stay open for the summer. Over the winter, pretty much all of these places are closed, and so they have to make enough to cover their rent for the full year in the summer, so then the cost is passed down to all of the guests, which is kind of annoying, honestly. Over the summer, the beaches are so packed. Over the winter, all of the beaches turn into dog beaches. You can pretty much do whatever you want, which I think is so cool. So let's talk about how I'm able to afford this and how it connects to my experience here and my human design. I have a master's degree in positive coaching psychology and had been in marketing and sales for about 6 years, but I couldn't figure out how to get the business going. Then nothing ever really took off. And that's when I started a Skool community, Skool, last year, and kind of found my niche, or my niche found me. At first I was just talking about business and marketing, sales concepts, which I just found kind of vanilla. There's so many people trying to sell you things online. Buyers are more discerning and intelligent than ever. A lot of them have been burned before, and so it's not as easy to sell your services online as just like making an Instagram profile. And so I started creating content, I set up my school, and then I started bringing more of who I am into the business because I'd always been fascinated by human design. I'd been into it for years, but at first I felt like this block of, am I spiritual enough to call myself a spiritual business coach? Even though I was raised Buddhist, I'm very practical too. And I even had a business coach tell me not to talk about human design in my content because it would just confuse people, but I could use it on the back end as part of my secret sauce. And I listened to her initially. And what's crazy is I had this realization because I wanted to sell, I think, a $5,000 offer or something. And then I was like, how can I expect my clients to feel safe investing thousands of dollars in themselves to work with me if I'm not willing to do the same thing? And so I took the leap. I hired her, and within 8 days, I had my first 10K month, which is what I had been dreaming about all along. Even though soon after that, I stopped listening to myself and talking about human design, and that's when it constricted. And once I had the realization that this is my business, I need to bring my full self to it, and the things that I'm interested in, my ideal clients are too, because your clients are always a reflection of you. And so I started bringing human design back in, creating valuable resources, working on my YouTube channel, and finding ways to build AI into it just to make it more efficient and sustainable, which is especially important for me as a projector. Another reason I think this worked really well for me is because as a 4/6, my network is my paycheck. My people really trust me and what I have to say, and generally need to know a bit more about me in order to do business with me. And so what I did is I built a freemium Skool community, which is free on the front end, high ticket on the back end, so that people were able to come in for free, get a taste for what I do, you know, what I'm about, see the results my paid clients are getting, and it allows me to pick and choose the clients I want to work with based on their potential and who I see as a committed client. I don't just have to serve everybody. I'm only having to run one community, which is so much easier than what I used to do. I used to have a free and a paid. Now everything's all in one place. And so having a community has been super freaking helpful. And then the slower pace just really aligns with my energy. It's a daily reminder that I can take a break. I can, work for a few hours doing things that I enjoy, creating content, making myself discoverable, but I don't have to spend all day, every day behind a computer screen, which has been so huge. So this move was really about living my purpose, not just changing locations, but finding and creating an environment that is conducive to the life that I want to live. And I actually enjoy my life now instead of just hustling all the time. So I don't know if we'll stay here forever. We do have a lease for the year, but I'm really looking forward to exploring the country, meeting more people, and winter for when all the beaches become dog beaches. This is what happens when you align your life and business to your design. So if you are dreaming of location and financial freedom where you can work anywhere with Wi-Fi from your laptop, it's absolutely possible. People are always like, oh, I wish I could do that, Amanda. I really wish I could do that. But you can. You can literally do whatever you want if you have the courage to try and take action based on the information you have right now. If you're constantly doubting yourself, whether this will work, if it's the right thing, you never even allow yourself to get started. So if this sounds interesting to you, definitely join my free spiritual business school where I share exactly how I built this location independent business using human design and AI. That link is below. If you want to learn more about how I built this business that funds my lifestyle from human design, alignment, AI systems, and building a community, make sure you subscribe so you are notified of my next video. Croatia isn't perfect, but it is perfect for me right now. And that's what matters. Finding what aligns with your design and your dreams. It's out there. And it all starts with your desire to experience it and taking that aligned, albeit messy, action. Mwah.